Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. New videos every week, so if you don't want to miss out on any of your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, you better make sure that you click subscribe, check that notification box, and check my channel every week for brand new adventures. I love reading your comments, and I really do appreciate all of you that watch. It is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. What can I say? Now, I need to catch you up on what's been going down out in the deer woods because we are back to Illinois Archery season 2017. This hunt started out far from perfect. It was early afternoon and I made my way in across the cornfield toward the rose patch in the backside of the property. But on my way across the cornfield, I counted 6 flagging whitetails headed up the ridge before me. Because you see, after the gun season, deer get really skittish. And so, I didn't have high hopes for this adventure. But with hunting, you never really know. And so I decided that I was going to set up in the rose patch behind the property and wait out the afternoon just to see what might happen. The wind was blowing across me, which was good. And with the fields turned under and the rut over, I didn't really know what might be going on, so I figured I'd just have to see. Everything was desolate in its terrible beauty, with the teeth of the cold, but yet gentle wind gnawing at my face. But anything is possible in the magic hour. And then he was there. Like a ghost. He made no sound whatsoever. I had simply felt him, turned my head, and thought, holy shit, there's a deer right there. He's inside of 20 yards and doesn't know that I'm here. I managed to get my cameras on and swing my camera while he was with his head down. But he was facing me, and it was not the shot that I was looking for. And then, when I turned my head back, he simply took off. Now it is amazing to me how you can be so cold, and then instantly, when the adrenaline hits you, when a game animal comes into view, you instantly forget all about the cold when it's time for action. Now, there are things that I probably could have done differently, because if I had simply sat completely still, he would have probably just walked down the trail toward me and then given me a broadside shot at about 5 yards. But with hunting, it's always a brand new adventure. And I hunt for thrill of the chase. I could not have counted on having an encounter that was so good on a day that started out so bad. Now, while I would have nothing to pack out, my soul was at least fulfilled because I had engaged in the visceral mystery of the hunt. And I had gotten so very close to a good-sized buck that had lived through the gun seasons. The night before, I had hung a stand back in the neighbor's property. After dark, of course, because that's when I actually had time to do it. And packing in a stand, cutting shooting lanes, and hanging a stand along with setting camera mounts by headlamp is an acquired skill that I have that I've mentioned many times. Now, the reason that I needed to hang a stand in there was because previously I had removed all my stands from that property because I didn't want to be fighting the winter snow, because I knew that it was my last year of hunting that particular property. But after my close encounter with the buck, I decided that I needed to get back off the ground, and maybe he might come back. But this morning I wasn't hunting that property. I was hunting the cattle pasture because I figured that after a night's work that spot would need some time to breathe. I was, however, disappointed when I realized after checking my trail camera that there had been absolutely no deer activity pass in front of it. But life ain't like the pornos, and hunting ain't like the TV shows. And you never really know what's going to happen on a hunt until you've been there and you've done it. Now, I will be completely honest with you. While I would love to get a deer, the fact is, I love the chase just as much. And even though I might come out empty-handed, I really truly love that heart-thumping adrenaline high of predatory clarity that comes with getting close to a whitetail. Even if I come out empty-handed, getting the thrill without the mess is almost just as good. Not quite just as good as having a buck on the ground, meat in the freezer, and bragging rights. But I never mind if the game outsmarts me. It's what they do. At this point in the season, the cattle pasture is basically dead. I can't see myself getting a deer out of there at all because there's no activity whatsoever on the trail camera. So I'm basically going to have to go into their inner sanctum and invade their personal range and hope that that buck comes back. But I bet that I gave that buck the scare of his whole damn life, because that buck didn't get that size by accident. He did not live through that many gun seasons and that many bow seasons by being stupid. So I figure that I won the high stakes game of whack-a-mole for a change because I was in the right place at the right time and I just screwed it up. But if you can do it better on film with a traditional bow, you send me a link and I'll be happy to give that video a thumbs up. Anyhow, this is another thing that you're either going to get or you ain't going to have the capacity to comprehend. With fair chase hunting, it doesn't bother me when the animal gets away because I get such a high from being there and being that close to an animal. Nature is cruel, and that animal only got that big and that old living by its wits, and when I can be that close, I won't claim that it's as good as getting that deer, but those little heart-racing snippets of adrenaline really make it worth it. And I'm back with another inner monologue. It always seems like by this point in the season, when things are winding down and you've watched the deer for the better part of a year, that you finally got them figured out. But you got them figured out just too late. So I'm not all that hopeful for the rest of the season, but with hunting, you never really know. I'm also not very hopeful for any activity in the cattle pasture, barring some blind luck. And there's an awful lot of things on the other property that I'm losing access to that I wish that I would have done differently earlier in the season. But on this side of it, it's too late to do anything about it. I can't change it. I gotta live with it. Probably not gonna see anything at all tonight, but I'm still going out. Pretty cold, so that's always a good sign. As you can see, I've got my jacket over my pack. This is a lesson that I had to learn the hard way, because with all this camera gear, weight adds up fast, and honestly, most backpacking technical clothing from other hunting companies
isn't heavy enough for whitetail in the later seasons. Now that's not really their fault. What I'm getting at is it does not take much movement at all to be overdressed when you're actually carrying a pack. So obviously, as you see, I've got my jacket over my pack as I'm coming in. Walk in cold, because it won't take long before you get nice and warmed up when you're hauling a pack. So walk in cold, then put your layer on when you stand still. It's a hard lesson that I had to learn, but hopefully, while this is obvious to all you Western guys, it's not so obvious east of the Mississippi.
I was hunting the stand that I had set the night before this afternoon. Everything about this spot was so perfect. There were oak trees, there was a rub line to my right, and there was the wild rose trail on my left, and directly in front of me there was a grass thicket in between patches of timber. But I had not penetrated so far into this part of the property for fear of driving deer off the property, and I finally found myself hunting where I should have started hunting near the beginning of the season, when pushed there myself by desperation. But yet I had had a very close encounter that I could have capitalized on had I been in this very spot, up in this very tree, just days ago. But you see, I do not regret shots that I have not taken. I simply have regrets about spots that I have not sat. Because this far into the season, it is easy to look back, examine in retrospect all the things that could have gone right and didn't, and all the things that I should have done and I didn't. But for the time being, everything was so utterly peaceful as the magic hour ticked by toward darkness. And so I waited, watching, waiting, listening, and engaging in the visceral mystery of the hunt, because there's no knowing what may happen. It is something that we feel deep inside, but yet we cannot hope to fully comprehend. The darkness came down faster, and the temperature continued to drop. My evolution as a bow hunter goes something like this. I never had a bow hunting mentor or anybody to really show me the ropes, so to speak. Now, I did have several people when I first got into archery teach me an awful lot about the way that compound bows worked and how to sight in and so on and so forth. But when it came to bow hunting, I was basically on my own. So if you wonder why I'm such a, quote, terrible bow hunter, it's because I never had a teacher. I'm all self-taught. And so my evolution as a bow hunter goes from being all wrapped up around the axle about fancy gear and a ripping fast bow and super bright 5-pin fiber optic sights and a drop-away rest, which is all funny because I always use nothing but a $10 Walmart Allen Company trigger release. But I had pins from 20 all the way out to 50 yards. But because I was all into the new fancy whiz-bang gear every year, I could not afford, being an independent outdoorsman, to actually upgrade every year. It just got too expensive getting the new sight, the new rest, trying to get a new bow. And so I eventually decided that I couldn't keep up. And with traditional archery, it is already obsolete, so it's never out of style. And I went from hoping that a deer would come within range of my 50-yard pin to the only range that I cared about was wanting to be so close to the animal that I could not possibly miss its vitals. It's kind of funny like that, how when I had a 5-pin sight, it doesn't matter what you've got in your hand if nothing shows up. The only range that I care about is being close enough that I can't possibly miss. And through that, it went from how far can I shoot to how close can I get. A much more primal and intimate experience with nature. And it has taught me patience, and it has taught me humility. And it has taught me that hard work is the only way for potential success. I say potential success because nature simply does not care. We're getting to the tail end of the season. Days are getting short. Weather's getting cold. And I'm not all that hopeful for success, if I'm being completely honest with you. But you can make me crawl. You can make me cry. But you can't make me quit. So I'm still going out there. I'm still going after it. And to be totally honest with you, my hopes aren't high. But with hunting, it is a visceral mystery, and you will never really know what them critters are going to be doing until you see it for yourself. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOETacticalGear.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.